So I don't know, we have to say where we're holding. So we're holding, this is a shir, Hamshchaim Beis. Today is Kof Talad Iyar, Toshin Shamtes, Hamshchaim Beis, Chelik Aleph, Divo Hamas Chil, Hashem Oma Hamachasani, Pash Vayer, Tof Reish, Ayin Dalid, Omud, Tof Nun Zayin. So we're in Ois Reish Kofar, and we were doing with the Iyar of how the Pele, the feed the Zohar HaKodesh, that Atzisof Pele, we saw that from the Oisius Pele, Atzisa Elef. Kaviochel the Eish will make the Pele into Aleph, but Aleph is Loshen Limud, and we saw that the Iyar of the Gilui will be the Pele Atzmei. And we saw that that's the Iyar at the Helema Atzmi that we've been talking about the whole time. But that will be Nefach Gilui, and then it'll be a Gilui of the Atzmas Mami, Sheyesa, Biesa Seisa, Biesa Oz, Afilo, Legabi Matan Teira. It will be the Iyar from Gilui, Riyas Hamahus, and we saw that in Matan Teira it was stuck here, Gilui Mahus, but it was only not even from Shmiyah. The Ilo, the Chiddush of the Yemais HaMashiach will be an even from Iyar Gashmi as Beinayim Gashmi Amamish. And we saw that that was the Derek Lazeh is Alidei the Aveda Bisman Hazeh Behelomis Ves Terim. What is certainly enough of that is what Alidei what the Bnei Oder the Yidden Meisha the Helem Behester. And it's even more than being Mesa, it's killed just being Megala, the Atzmi, which is really Bo Behelem Zeh. And we saw that that's the Iyar, the Ridas on the Shoma Lamata, Levaras Agufa, Nefesh Habamiyas. And we saw that the Maila, the Neshoma, that she has that koyach, is that she is Mamish Me Etzem Elakus. And we saw that that's the Iyar from Pnimius, Akelim, Da'atzilas, and therefore the Even HaYisavas of the Neshama is different than Kol HaNivroim. The Kol HaNivroim, they come about in the Even of Yesh Min Ha'ayin, and they become a Tzias Yesh. Mashik in the Neshama, it never becomes a HaYisavas, it's only like a Gila Elakus, Lamata, albeit in a even what there's a certain tfisis mokim to the Iyar yesh of the Olam, aber even Klori the Neshama remains Ayin from Elakus, kamuvan even be Yeridos Lamata, and therefore we'll see behemshach Iyar that there's a Maila Nifloa can occur Dafki Hilamata in the Vedas of Neshama, yes, that she remains even be Ridos Alamata Etzem Elakus. That's basically where we were holding, and therefore we saw that the Neshama, her Hasoge, how it is Lamaila before you read Alamata in Gan Eden, or that's the Iyar from Hasoge Samahus, and we saw that it was Iyar from even from Re'iyas Hamhus. Yeah, but we're going to see there's a Maila in the Riyas HaMahus, how it is Lamata, the Avidos Lamata, compared to how it is in Gan Eden, V'zeu, Shemakoy Mahu Gan Eden, the Shomu Prinus Mahus, as well known, the Zeu Hefresh Ben Gan Eden or Eilames, the Eilames Ein Mizayin Taktoinim, Sheboim Prinus Islabshas, but the Iyar from Islabshas indicates that the Lavush becomes a Matthias Lagabi the Dova Mislavish boy, What that means that the Indian of the Elakus is Nimta, Belavushu Behelem in the Indian of Islapshes, therefore the Indian from the Oilamas Saraya Nimta Indian Azayin Taktoinim, even though Elakus is Nimta Bechola Oilamas, aber the Nevroim Atoifes Mokim Gabi der Elakus. And therefore we say it's Ayin from Islapshes, Elakus is Nimto, Belavushim Hamashtirim. And Hefrish ben Gan Eden Lo'ilamas, the Gan Eden Meya Gimel Rishonis, Shu Gile Hammer, who's a commercial class of a Mokim Acher. In other words, the Gimel Rishonis is Kesser Chochma. Bina, what there the Iniv and Elakus is Begoloi Mamish, and the Kalim are not Mailim or Mastir. You do that the Kalim in Kesser are completely Betalim, Gamre, they're not Prince in Lakute Terra. And this last week's Pasha B'Chukoisat. And the Kli in Chochma is also Botel Gamre, Adjaina Begeda Kli. And the same with Bina, the Indian and the Kalim. And Bina are only the Aschoros are Kalim, they're not really Mailam or Mastir. Therefore, Elakus can be Begoloi, Mamish Kamoishahu, the Haino Mahus, and the Neshoma, being as she is also Elakus, I feel that she is in Gan Eden, and she's Masik, the Mahus Elakus, which is taught Begoloi in Gan Eden, albeit it's only the Mahus of Aziv, because so Gan Eden is in Olam Abriya, what it's Olam. Therefore, it's well known of what is Meya in Gan Eden, it's only Aziv from Etzem Elakus Adis and Atzilas, of so it's Kiloi Mahus Haziv. And that's what the Neshama has, B'yoysa B'Gan Eden. V'yod Lamata B'dei Laharis, Gam Lahaguf Nefesh Abamis Bechinas Gila Oirein Seif. And all tachlis of the Yerida, the Neshama Lamata, like we see in many, also in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe brings it that the Yerida Sam Neshama ain't a Bishvil Atzmo. The Neshama being as she is, Etzem Elakus, doesn't really need the Yerida Lamata Kemuvan. The whole tachlis is Laharis. And we're going to see the diuk of that lesson a little bit later here in the drush. That what he says, Laharis Gam Lahagufa Nefesh Apami is there's an Aveda in the Neshama what she shows, and she brings almost like an obvious Indian to the Guf and the Nefesh Apami. And that's through the Oifen, the Asoga Bavidosa Kan Lamata. And that causes in the Indian of the Nefesh Apami, as we'll see later on, a tremendous what you might call shinui in a whole attitude or a whole way of functioning. V'hu alidei ha'izboninus b'savish yesh mi ayin eich shekol ma shenisavahu mikoach halaki amahava oisei. In other words, that we see that the oifen ha'izboninus of the nefesh halakis betchilas aveda is that she shows inyonim which are moving in sug seichel, which is moving even to the Nefesh Bamis. In other words, he also has Seichel, albeit a very limited form of Seichel, of Inyonim which are moving Seichel Poshut, and in a Seichel are moving Kol Mavin, if he's only Mizbein B'Ktsara in the Inyonim, then the Nefesh Bamis is held to be Masik such Inyonim. And masik them betur. So therefore, that's the Aveda Betchila of the Nefesh Elokis. And what is that dogma from them? So he says, Ki ein dova oisa es atzmei, like the Alter Rebbe brings in Perikotes, that nothing really makes it self. Einu chai mi atzmei, it doesn't make itself, that it's obviously not living the whole time, b'chayis, which is mi atzmei. Ki mikoach elaki amahava isai, Umachaya, he said, well, those are the two in Yonim, from Hitavas and Chayas, that the Alter Rebbe brings in Perik Mem Ches, we learned not so long ago in Tanya, that there's Yetzim Koyach HaMahava, what does it be Koyach HaSeiviv, and then there's Ein and Amamale, what does it be Ein and Chayas HaPnimi, albeit in that save of this nimshach is chaber with the panimi, although chaponim it's two separate inyonim, and therefore the koyach eloki has both functions together, both mahava and machaya in or even from chayas panimi. Shezo yochel is gam basogas nefesh hanefesh ba'amias, rak shezo pchinas hasogas hametzias levad. That the nefesh habamis can grasp such a hasoga. It's a simple understanding, a movement we call seichel, and therefore he's able to be teifaset. And he said, even though that's only a hasogas hametzias levad, shaharein ein roya mahus ha'ein elaki hamahave. He doesn't see. The nefesh habamis doesn't have any seeing. I feel rias ein aseichel. He doesn't have any more than just the grasping of the metzias of those in yonim. In other words, he sees that ain't dover, or he's maven, that ain't dover isus atzmei, and that there must be a koyach ha-mahave and a koyach ha-machaye, but that remains menit that he knows that there are such in yonim, metzias bilvad, but not that he has any kesher mahusi with those in yonim. So the Rebbe says, Sharein roya the ilamole nitna reshus lo ayin lirois lo roya sayesh klau, and that's what the Alter Rebbe writes that question in Shara Yichud Peragimel, that if there were to be given a reshus lo ayin lirois, meaning the ayin akashmi, the physical eye, if the physical eye were to actually be able to see in yone ruchniim, in yonim elokim, then you wouldn't see the yesh cloud, you would only see the ayin eloki, because the yesh is bottled b'tachas hapitel ad shehu bottled b'metzias mamish legabi the ayin eloki. Instead of seeing the ikar ha-metzias or the ikar ha-metzias ha-amitias, we see the metzias ha-tofel va-bottle legamri. Of ilu we were able to see Ayin rushus la'ayin, means that the ayin would be able to see Ayin eloki or ruchni eloki, then we wouldn't see the way we see. We would see b'diuk fakert. We'd see the yeshu amiti, and we'd see how that Ayin is bottled elov mikova v'chol. That's the way it is now. The seder avodah, that first of all you have to be megala the nefesh habamis in yonim, but he doesn't have any more than just a pure metzias tika hasog in them. He said the kain hu borius anishomas hakavoyos lamata shari also mitzad anishoma areheim roim eso ayin hoeli eso ayin elki. He said nishomas gavoyos, they take a see the ayin elki and they don't see the inyan of the yesh. Well, that's a very fascinating statement. Whether he means the Rebbe with the mit, whether he means that that's a inyan tmidi b'zay, or whether it's only la'eis mina ha'itim, where it might call be'itei rotzen or be'zmanim miyuchadim v'chulei. Why do I say like that? Because well known that the Alter Rebbe, when he was in the Goy's house prior to these talkers, he had put down that he showed the Talmud Tzedek, and he tried to show the Talmud Tzedek, and he looked up at the koira, the Goy's stibul, and the whole roof, there's still this big beam, and he said that I don't see the beam, I see only the Dvar Havaya, which is Machayim Mahava. Mahav is a koiro, and so the Talmud Tzedek was very indisposed from the fact that he said that, and he asked the Talmud Tzedek, did he actually see that? He said no, he doesn't see it. He sees the koiro. So the Alter Rebbe said he said it's nicht, and I think it's even brought there in Derech Mitzvah in a place. I think it's in Sheresh Mitzvah Tefillah. That was only because of Mekivin Shazayah Korev Lezman Nistalkusei Mino Elam was Yemel Kol Avidosei Misale B'Tachas Ailui, and therefore he was able to see the Ayin Elokiya, not the Koira Klal. He didn't see the Yesh Agashmi at all, is what for now it's much better. Maybe it wasn't cold as my boyfriend because Beitim Mizumonim, and it's also one honor is brought down in I think it's even brought down in the Sefer Torah Sholem that the Rabbi Rashab once said to the Chassidim, he was sitting at a table and there was fish on the table, and they said, when you want I can show you only the Dvaravai in the fish, and you won't see the fish Beklau. And then a few minutes later he said no, that he decided that he's not going to do it because there's a cheshash that they would only chap the Gashmi anyway, and they wouldn't see the Ruchni, they would be nimshach achrei Gashmis. And so from Devon's mashma there was a very special moment. It was a rega miyuchad, lav davki that was Ayin and kol hazmanim. קצת צורקים בדובר, אם זה בדיוק כיצד, but he writes it that with the stamius, that it's much more that maybe that's an avoid tmidis etzlo, because he just writes it, keinu burius anishomas agavayas lamata, shiri also. Mitzad anishoma harei royim es ayin hoelov, ki harei heim royim, it's much more it's in an even tmidi. Maybe that Ayin, the Kilu Kosha Doiras Yordim is a Hilchum Miskaber.
Maybe saying that sometimes their neshama sees.
Shabbos?
Maybe sometimes their neshama is seen, and sometimes their goof is seen.
Aha. Yeah, well, it's hard to say because he means even from Rias Ayin Bepashtas, that the neshama is poil, that the Ayin sees Bepashtas. This is the simple from the Alter Rebbe Zichar Mashma, and this is not that the goof saw one thing and the Shoma tried to.
No, sometimes this way, sometimes this way.
No. Anyway, Kitzat Sorikin, whether that's a Dova Tmidi, of Ochoponin, that there is a Zazak by the Neshoma Sakavoyes, that does a Zich. Ak says the Rebbe, Shemasik Shatova Hu Kach. He says, "Masik the Indian of the Matthias Indian. She savusum whom he hain eloki. Torikliya is bittel hayeshlo. He realizes that as eight of sign there, the avodah that there is such a thing as an ayin eloki animto, and we bow to this in the rike, and that's the whole hisavus and the whole chayas. It therefore has to be a bittel of the yeshel ha'ayin, but that's better kishtadlu. But not that it's just or even mitzanachmei kacha. And therefore, all of that says the Rebbe, the kol zeh, who begins hasogas hametzias. It's already he knows that the inyan is kach, or not that he experiences it in any even muchoshi. He just knows that it is kach. However, we'll see that that's not necessarily the whole story. Omnom yesh b'zeh yisoren maila. Here we see a very periodic. The Rebbe said the fact that the neshama is now lamata, and the neshama malubish in the goof, and the goof is ein harami mailim, and so the nefesh abamis. But if even the neshama doesn't see it that way, she sees through the eyes of the goof and the nefesh achiyunis of Chaponim and nefesh abamis. He said even though it's in the actual dagas of asoga. It's only asogas amatziyas. It's not asogas amahus klau. However, he said etzem asogas adovo shekachu harizeh b'chinas ria mam. He said even though it's only asogas amatziyas, and you can't classify it in another gather in Asoga more than Asoga somebody is. He said, nonetheless, Dafki Hilamata, there's a Maila that's in a oven from Ria Mamish. We can decide. How's it try to say that it's even from Ria if it's only Asoga somewhere? Yes. Shaharei misamis ma'uid eich she'ein adova oise es. That's me. He said that becomes by him when he works on himself to be mishanen that inyan that ain't always as Hatzmei, then that becomes very, very, how do you call it, emeskite, it becomes made into fat emes, it becomes more and more obvious, clear to him, and therefore, misham is b'yoysa lamata davke. So the Rebbe, that's shayach, that type of emes, should come into the Aveda, other neshama with the guf and the nefesh apam is davke pola, lamata ki lamayla began ain't tzorich. You don't need the whole inyan. It's not shayach that she should be masig. How always the satzme v'chulu. Ki those are inyanim which of course offer only for the sake of the guf and the nefesh apam. However, he said bisamtus chushias. It becomes a inyan in the chushim agashmi. How does it work? Ayin is an amazing chesed. Shari Haim, he said, if you look at the Dvarim HaGashmiyim, Nifsodim, they are all continually deteriorating. Nifsodim, they're always, as it were, gradually becoming oils. There's a famous Lashon which is brought from the Rabbeinu B'chaye in Pasha Vayikra. He brings the Rabbeinu B'chaye, that Miyad Sha'atinik Noilod, she begins to dry out or to gradually disintegrate from the moment he's born. So we see that all of the Dvarim HaGashmiyim, and that's a big chiddush by the Pamala Shomayla, by the Galgalim planets for Keita was there, that's a chiddush that the Eibster makes in them that they don't, even though they should really, but they don't. But the Nivroim, how they are, Lamata, Bezeho Elom, and then Nifsodim. V'roya hefsa dvarim b'chol eis. If he's got any ability to observe, he sees how the whole time this is going on, the deterioration. Harei b'hechreach leima, shehem hoivim chulu. He said, we have to say that something brought them about. Here we have to say that even though the Lashon hoivim can be touched, that they are there, and just a word to be there. But we have to understand that that means that they're not just there, but they're coming into being. That if they deteriorate, then something must have brought them about. The kol dover hanifsad. That's an amazing idea. If something is gradually deteriorating, if it's a say, how do you call it, shvachlach, and a say nitan, l'chulsha, that it's nifsodim, kolazman, then that's obvious it didn't have the koyach to make itself. If it can't stop itself from gradually wasting away, then those are zichah that didn't bring itself out, didn't have the koyach to be mahava as atzmei, and mamela ain't kiyumi mitad atzmei, ve'ain mitziusei, ain't kiyumi mitad atzmei. It doesn't have the power to continue its own matzias, because it's losing its own matzias the whole time. So the fact that it does remain, that's not mitzad itself. It's an amazing idea. In other words, you see from the losing of its matzias, that it doesn't really have the power to preserve its matzias, because it's losing it the whole time mitzad atzmei. And then he says, and more than that, that
shows that it's from itself.
Huh?
Because it's losing
Q?
Because it's losing its kiyum, it shows that it's from itself.
No. What do you mean to say it? Since it's losing its kiyum, since the kiyum is continuously, as far as it's concerned, is being lost, then you can't say that the kiyum is in its own power. The fact that it's still there. I mean, there's a certain period in the hefsed. What he's saying is, if you're all the time losing something, then you can't be the one that makes that something. So, if you're all the time losing it, and it's all the time dropping through your fingers, then you can't say that you're the one that makes it. I say that's the word. And then he says, and Koshkem v'chalvachem, that the etzem metzias is not miyatzmeh. That's even more. You can't say that his whole coming about was b'koyach atzmei. If he's the whole time dropping his whole kiyum through his finger. Amamela kumta is a pilatikazah. that here, normally speaking, one of the things that tends to be almost a depressing in him by a man, so he looks at the world, he sees the whole world's rotting away, everything's all the time deteriorating. That's a slightly, how do you call it, depressing type of a musik. And when he thinks Benegel, Atzmei, or Dvorim, Misoviv, Loi, V'chulu, they're all just gradually, deteriorating and turning into a waste. It's a rather, so sobering musa. So that was a big verkehrt. You have to look at the hefsed, and that has to tell you that the Eibusher must be making the whole bria every moment, because something which is nifsad can't be the sibur of its own kiyum, and how much more so it can't be the sibur of its own etzem matthias. Remember, in the hefsed you can see the koyach of the mahave ho'amiti. There's a mamish a dvapela. It says that that's one in it. V'gam moving, a further in is that since our component we do see that it's a yesh, we do see that it is there. Then he said, "V'gam moving the kol devar yesh u'matzias hari bechreach sha'isavas u'b'derach eina roich." Now we're saying that there must be something which is mamti, bring about it mamti. So the Rebbe said we have to say that even though there's a certain kilo of the mamti inside the etzem matzias, the etzem bringing about of the matzias must be an oiv from eina roiv. The hainu that the elikus must be shaloi be'erech and moved out from that of a hamisave. Why? Ki Iyar shaliya yesh mi yesh im lav shiyeh ayin be'emto. There's a big cloud, but you can't say that there's a yesh could come about from a yesh. Eli im kain yesh ayin be'emta. V'hainu shenisavu dova miloi dova. That means that the loi dova is the ayin of the emsa yesh, and that turns into an ayin, and then from that ayin is what comes about the zweite yesh. And that's a klal yadua b'chassidus that miyesh liyesh mukrach liyesh ayin be'emta. So what's it l'chora the seichel? What's it the yinyam b'zeh? In other words, that a yesh is a dover that by etzem inyonei is teifus matzias b'toich gvul mesuya. In other words, how do you define a matzias yesh? You say that that's what he is, and he's not another thing. He's not another thing, because if he's just a whole lot of things all at once, then he's not a matzias from a yesh. He's some sort of a l'mayla mi'a yesh. Every yesh has got his own tuikah from matzias, which by its definition is not another. Is not another Matthias. And therefore, his whole inyan of being a yesh, well, that means he's what he is. He's so busy being what he is that he couldn't possibly bring about another inyan, because his whole Agbola is being in what he is. And that being in what he is, that's a sign of his etzem Hagbola, because he can't be anything else, and he's not chayav to anything else. That's his whole matir. And therefore we see that the teva of the yesh be'etzem minyone is also how do you call it? Als fazir. And there's a famous book that somebody wrote called All for the Boss. The thing is in Mamera, the whole inyan from Torah is heipach hateva, in that it demands of the yesh that the yesh give himself away entirely to an andere inyan, or the v'ahavta l'reacha ko moicha. This is the big kasha. How can you possibly say ko moicha? Was ko moicha? You're a yesh and a matzias. You realize everything's not for the boss. Everything is for me. And if he bows everything for me, how can I possibly love something else? Ko moicha, I can only love him as much as he's good for me. Or I should love him as if he's zich alleen. This is Das ist aber ein Fehler in der Mitzvah. And in Chassidus more or less takes that on. And Chassidus says, yeah, the only way you can really love somebody be'emes lamid is if you go through a shlila. You have to go through a whole thing. Don't do to me, don't do to the other guy what you don't like doing to yourself. And that's how you can begin to somehow feel him. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, there has to be a shlila of your materials, of a college that you're just the way you are. How could you ever feel somebody else or even love somebody else but cloud? You'd be the shy. No, kommt is that the ganze Ringen, like it's brought down, that the Av, what most people think is Av, is really they're just interested in Zichalai. Yeah, in Zichalai. They're looking for their own inyonim, like it's written in Kamal Jewish Siddur, that I feel in Avasel Kurs, Ve'emes, who even Satzme, if he's not careful and he doesn't really, work on the Indian Av, he really loves himself not David. They stated in Jewish Siddur. And if I come to say, the Yesh Kol Inyone is Inyone who, and his Matthias is Magburim Be'etzem Inyone. How can he possibly be shy to an andere? And then what we said, befrontlich, how is it andere? That is like every child. And the Fala Meile, we also say that the Eibishter is not mahave anything. I feel that the Ne'atzolim Alyonim alidei Ayin be'emtza. I thought the word is a bisschen anders. Cholili kannte der Eibishter Mugbo bi'atzmei chas v'sholem. I thought the pink verkehrt. I thought we baule Elokus be'etem in the mitis amatzias. Anything else is just automatically bottled b'tachas habitl, as if he were to bring about bekiru, b'derech hishavet, something directly from himself, then it would just be himself, Pekolo, and Nikla, bottled b'tachas habitl, if Peklal would have any getter of Matthias. And if Dafke, because each of the shlilas kol efshorias, the kol Matthias, so he has to make an ayin be'emtza, was legavi that ayin, there will be some shaykhs also upon him, ayin if any son. And if I said, the Rebbe Kuto is a bein lamata, bein lamayla, kol chad lefum inyone, as a yesh can't give rise to a yesh, and if in order for there to be a yesh, giving rise to a yesh, there has to be a from loy be'emtza, and we have to say it's dover mi loy dover. In other words, that ayin is a loy dover, it's a shlila legavi the dover which it brings about, and therefore it calls it ayin. It says to it, it's not me, b'klal. So legamri lo ani. And if I come to is, says the Rebbe, that a person comes to an understanding that how come the Eibishter came made it, had to be in an even from the Richuch for Eina, because if the Eibishter was miscarried to it, then, therefore it has to be in an even Dover Miloi, this is the Dien from Eina Reich. Yachas, and therefore come to is that you make a cheshbon. If you look at the Yesh, then you come to sort of Kilo. You come to Tvei Inyonim Nifloim. On one hand, you realize that something must be making him the whole time, because he can't possibly be making himself. That's for sure. And the whole Inyan von Hoive v'Nif, so the Mechazik that Inyan betatlis, over Mitzad Shani, it's in an Eifen von Ein Aroich v'Hevdel. And my mother comes to say that even though there is a presence of the Inyan in him, otherwise he wouldn't be what he is, Klau, Mitzad Shani, that's in an Eifen von Tachas Harichuch, therefore he has no error whatsoever legabi his mahave, which means that he's bottled b'metzias legabi the mahave. And Mera Kumta is that all these inyonim become emes to the Odom. Dafki how it is lamata alidei the chushim. It's actually possible in the chushim to see and experience these inyonim. The koza hu lamata b'chinas ria chushias mamish. Now we're going to see that when he says ria chushias, these inyonim, these type of inyonim is able to see ria chushias. Mamish dialakus. We have to sort of be careful of the pshat. Okamakein b'chol inin b'chinas hasoge elakis b'muchash. He says shahein me'advorim ataktoinim davke. So Kuntais, says the Rebbe, that not just in these inyonim, but in everything that you see here, lamata, you come to hasoge elakis, albeit it's only hasoge samatzias, Aber in der Asogas Amatzias you have a chushias observation. That's not good. That you can observe that inyan and teach it to yourself in a real chushistic way. Okay, so we just said it in for the Yisavit. So now he says, B'chol inyan. How does that work? He says, yeah, but Mucha Shahen me advarim ataktoinim davke from down here lamata, you can come to such a inyan. Shahami amoshu yedim esa nimshal b'yesel. Liyesha hamoshu hu nira v'niragash me'oid b'chinas riya mami. He said, when you see a moshel afazach, and you actually observe the moshel, he said, then you come to know the nimshal much more than you would have had you just studied the nimshal, but even havshota b'fnei atzmai. Of alidei, what you see a moshel, lamata, and you actually see the moshel for the nimshal, and you study the moshel, then you come to a sogya in the nimshal much more. And it can be said that you know the nimshal. Because you see the thing in Oilama Agashmi Lefanecha. Now give a cook. V'yadua da moshel hu nimshal. And it's well known that the moshel is the nimshal. V'alkein, says the Rebbe, zeu daka hayediyah b'muchash eichuma. He said, and Kumta, he said, you know the moshel b'muchash, with the chushim you know the moshel, and you know eichuma who. So if we say that moshel is really the nimshal, then Kumta, he said, you have a yediyah chushiyas in the nimshal alidei the chushima agashmi. In other words, that you mamish see, as it were, eloquent. And that's Shai Tafki Polamat. Well, it tells that the marshal is the nimshal. What's the touch? It's a rather unusual lotion. A marshal who ha-nimshal. Well, it tells. So we have to say, it's nimta as a lotion. And Siddas will be at loy bahar b'mekeimes. Well, it's nimta that all the inyonim, how they are lamata, are really a marshal. Yeah, the inyonim k'moy shahin. Yahin mishalim afel kursman. Was it a beer? It's written in the Koheles, when I get to the Torah, Kasher Yema Meshal Hakadmoini. The Torah is called the Meshal Hakadmoini. In other words, it's a moshel of the Kadmoini. Not it's a Kadmoini moshel, it's a moshel of the Kadmoini. Meshal Hakadmoini. In other words, the Torah is a moshel for the Eibishter. And that's one of the reasons that we say, Ishtachu Beiraisa Ubara Alma. The Eibishter looked into the Torah and he created the world, Alidei the Torah, which means that all the inyonim in the world, yeah, they are Misholim of the Eibishter, because the Torah is the Eibishter's, the Torah is the Eibishter's Moshel, and the Torah brought everything about, Kamoshahu. Mamela Kunta is that the Moshel is really the Nimshal. It's a man need that the union of a moshel is a parcel. Can do the beer and sit that the parcel of mile is a dogma, but it's well known the difference between parcel and simple. We learned it. I don't know if you guys remember from one few months to the other what we learned, but we did learn it a few months back. The difference between tzimtzum and parcel. Yeah, tzimtzum means a siluk, but the tzimtzumim are rishonim. I didn't even take that away. Parsa, it attached that the etzem oir is mislavish in the parsa, and what you see on the other side of the parsa is the same oir. It just looks to be a shvachar oir, but it's really the same. It's the same oir. And remember, nimtza inside somewhere inside that curtain, the oir is being held up, it's being hidden over. This is mamish the same oir. And remember, Nim said that the etzem oir itself is mislavish in the parsa. Nicht bederach sila. And if I come to, he said the moshel in Elakus, the moshel is really the nimshal. Those are the pshat meshala kadmoini. Everything how it is lamata is a moshel of the Eibishter. Not it's the Eibishter's moshel. No, it's a moshel of the Eibishter. And it's moving as in Pashtus. What's the difference if you give a moshel? You're a Baal HaTorah, and you found a moshel for a certain nimshal. So you're talking about one hasor, a dako, and you're trying to give a moshel to somebody that should be out on the understand what you're trying to tell him. Aber in Elakus, who made everything, and what is the Etzem Metzias of everything? The Etzem Metzias of everything is who is born. Mamish, Kipshute, alles ist, has a famous expression, alles ist und is, alles ist und is alles. In other words, you want to go Milmata Lamaila, so it's funny, you want to come Milmata Lamata weiter. Everything's the Eivester. You know how it comes to it, that if you look at the world, you're really seeing him. You're just seeing him in the form of a pause. He's gone into a certain sort of a pause. But you're really seeing, the marshal is an effector than him, Shao. What is the problem? That you got these Magushim thick eyes and you're not like that tzaddik. He sees it, he looks through the past and he sees the Etzem Nimshal. We're meeting up here in this whole portion of this Hampshire. We're meeting up here with an amazing Indian that everything is really just just in different modes of appearance. Like we saw before, that the whole Indian of the Golas is really tremendously, the Gula is just behind all the Inyanim of the Golas. And this is like a Hezbollah, this is like another way of, this is a continuation. Zehu Mashikoz, the whole Osir is a further beer in them. And remember, what the Rebbe is saying is that when you come Lamata, you have the ability, when the Neshama comes Lamata, we're going to see the Neshama comes to Zolchi in Yonim, in Elakus, that she doesn't possibly have Lamaila, because here Lamata is hidden the ability to actually experience in the most atzmistic way that the Neshama doesn't really experience it in. And how do you do that? By you break through what you might call the barricade. You get through, which is not a real barrier, it's not a lavush, it's just the etem in another form. That's in another moshel. And he says, if you come to a much better knowledge, if it is real, we'll do even more than that the moshel is an effect of nimshal. Okay, so that when you look at Inyanim Gashmi, when you think about them the right way, then you're looking at the Eivs, you're looking at Elakus in a way that it's muchayisdik, because these things come through. In other words, the Gashmisdik senses, Hushim, they assist the whole thing. It's not that they change it's had some status in Asoga, but they make it much more vivid than what even the Asoga is in Gan Eden. It's a pili dikizah. Vezeu, says the Rebbe, Asher Omo, or the Masher Kosu, Umipshori Echse Elakar. Now here teaches the Rebbe the most amazing thing. Okay, I'm sorry. I said that. Vezeu, Dafki Aidi Bamuchash Eichu Mahu. So he said, Eichu Mahu. In other words, you come to know the Eichu Mahu of the Moshel, because that's in your league. And you know the Eichu Mahu of the Moshel, you've already got the Eichu Mahu of Elakut. So he said, V'zeu Mashu Kosev Umipsore Exa Elakar. From my flesh I will come to see Elakus Mipsori Hua Nefesha Bahamias. Wow, what a title. Taitz Rebbe, Mipsore Exa Elakar. Your Nefesh Abamias can see Elakus. Was it Taish Mipsori from the Dvorima Agashmiyim? From the Gashmi you can see Elakus. Who can see it? Even your Nefesh Abamiyah. The Kasha Tizdachik. Lahakir is Boiro. Bisavas Yesh Miyayin Kahai Gavna Canal. Oimal Ze Echse Elakar. Shubkinas Rias Amahus. In other words, if you shochel up the Chumis of the Shabbat, and you shochel him out in a business that he becomes Tizdachik, he becomes a little bit Mazuchach to the Shabbat, he's not so vergrebt, verdreht, and you take away some of the Chumis from the Shabbat, then, says the Rebbe, what does he do? He's masig, or that Machias Elakus, but he's masig it in such a way that he shot to the goof, and he sees the Yonanim, how they are mamishin, Gashmias, and that's a form of Riyasama. In other words, that he sees it, B'musa Gashmi. And in that goof he sees the Elakus. So just that rock, says the Rebbe. Shenikra echzer. Here's the whole question. It's not mamish real gashmias kipshutei. He said it's nikra echzer shehu targum shoriyah. It's not mamish real. It's targum shoriyah. Dainu rach hasoga chushiyah. It's what we call hasoga through the chushiyim. The way riyas hama. In other words, we're teaching now. The Riyah Kipshute means that you see the Mahus of Azach. And I say this is in Pashtas. Yeah, whenever I see something, Mamish, the Kashmir, I see the Mahus of it. So the Rebbe says, Mamish Mahus in Elokus, nobody's going to say, Bishlav Zeh. The Neshama, yeah, but I mean, also with a certain Hakbola. But the Yosid, everybody's going to see it, yeah, Mamish Miha Gufa Gashmi. But what do we mean by saying Riyah Samahus? We mean that you see it through the Chushima Hagashmi. In other words, that your Asoga becomes linked and it becomes, as it were, fa'emast al yedei the Chushima Hagashmi. And in that Indian we call it Riyah, but not Riyah Samahus Mamish, because Riyah Mahus Mamish means that you see the actual Mahus of the Indian, and that's Riyah with the Einayim HaBetzorim Mamish. Raksha Nikra Echzer, because that's terrible. And it's not Riyah Chushias Mamish. Ain't no Riyah Mamish as a Mahus Telekus. Because we're touching now that Riyah means where you see the actual Mahus. Rakhalidei Amtus, through the Fa'emestkeit. V'riyas hanimshol bihamoshol nasa idiose bahanimshol b'chinas asoge chushiyas. In other words, that since he sees in the moshel everything b'riyah, that he does see b'riyah chushiyas, and we say that in the moshel is really the nimshol, and remember he comes to a knowledge of the nimshol through the medium of the riyah chushiyas. In other words, that he knows that the Indian of the so kumtois that he has riyah chushiyas in Elokus, but he doesn't have riyah samahus. In other words, that he sees the inyonim agashmiyim, or that's yeshayt that he can see. But they say that's ma'amis, b'yisamtas gedoyla, the whole ideas are sogas amatiyas. They say he's got a whole new realm of experience that he couldn't possibly have had Lamaila, and we're going to see it doesn't stop there. When he comes to that, then he lets loose another Indian. He makes possible another Indian which is also not Shaykh Lamaila. Ever is an imshal b'mashal nasi diose b'hanimshal b'pinas hasoge chushiyas, not riyah chushiyas, but hasoge chushiyas. We said, ain't there a soga between Yediyas Amatiyas Lavad? Oh, don't go back to what I said before, just, Yediyas Amatiyas. Ki'im a soga Chushiyas Mamish Ki'ilu Royabe Eino. Because the Dvarim HaGashmiyim, what he knows that there is the Moshel Elokut, that he does see. And that he does see, because a Reichheit of the meaning from Riyah. Although, since he doesn't see the actual Elokut, but he sees that Elokut as a nimshol from these Inyanim Gashmiyim, and therefore he comes to the relationship to that Elokut, Ki'ilu he would have seen it, because he saw upon him what is shaykh for him to see, B'chushi Magashmiyim, just that the Etzem Mahus of Elokut, he's not able to see that in time. So you might say, well, it's like tantalizing. So the Rebbe says, there's another big, as it were, reward for that. So he says, you have ki lamata sheruah hefseidas kol advarim kanal ine asoga misamates had it becomes misamis by him, becomes much more emes ki'ilu roya be'eino mamish ki'ilu, not that he does actually see the etzem mahus of Elokus, but he sees the inyonim which they bring a emeskite in the asogasana tzir. So he says, "Mibsore echse elakar, da nefesh apamius." Yeah, where are we? Yeah, da nefesh apamius. Kasher mizdachek yesh bo asoga elakis keilu royer. In other words, not that he actually sees the Elokus Mamish Royer, but he sees the Inonim which he can see, and through that causes a much greater emphasis in the Asoga. And therefore, it's kilo like a step, an unbelievable step forward, that he's got a tremendous chayes mitad riyah, even though he doesn't actually see the etzem mahus. He's only got a hasoga in the matiyat, but that gufa gets a tremendous emes from everything that he sees beinayim agashmi. So this is the pshat. Says the Rebbe, however, that's not the finish. He said, "V'alidei zeh, v'anishoma hu b'chidas riyas hamahus mamish mitzad mahus hanishoma atzmo shehi elokut." And he said, "Alidei zeh, what the nefesh habahami goes up into chushiyas emeskai in her hasogas ha'matzias, that causes in the neshama that the neshama comes to a inferior mahus mamish polamata." In other words, it comes to is that a mensch, if he causes echse elakava, what that's talking about the nefesh habami, that can open up a road that mitzad the inner of the neshama, he actually is able to see mahus elakus mamish beria, how much shayach in the neshama mitzad atzmo the inner for real le'eis ato. And he said that's a result of the fact that his nefesh habamis went up in, what you might call his nefesh habamis, how do you call it, went up in the world. That the nefesh habamis went up so much in the world that causes that the nefesh elokis also goes up in the world. What has happened to the nefesh elokis? That she is bechinas riyas hamahus mamish mitzad mahus hanishama atzmo shehi elokut. The neshama is anyway elokut. As if the Helen Vahesta has gone down, then elokut mahus and mahus come together. The two inyanim join up, and one mahus, as you might call it, tzitzich in the zweite mahus. It's a door. When you think about it, the whole thing is a door portion. What is it that stops the neshama? I mean, the neshama comes down the matter. The neshama is a chelak elakam mimam mamish. Etzem elokut. After what's the neshama? Why doesn't the neshama just experience elokut b'muhus mamish? I mean, she's mamish elokut. And in elokut, chelak elakam mile nitz down. Mamish etzem elokut. Why doesn't she just see everything? Everything you walk around is completely and utterly adequate melchatchila ariba. Because there's a film over the eyes. The famous expression, that there's dust in the eye. And I put down a citizen when you make a mirror. So there's a mile in the mirror that you can see behind you. But what you did was you put a film over the glass, and therefore you don't see through the glass. You can't see through it. The film, what they call mercury, it stops. So it's got a mile that you can see yourself back. That's another thing. Oh, but you don't see through the glass. A film that doesn't allow you to see. What is that film? The Nefesh Habam. And remember, Teva Nefesh Habam is that he's nimshut to the Dvarim HaGashmiyim, and he just says, look, I see the Dvarim HaGashmiyim b'chush, and that's all I know about it. Why is he get under that? Let's have a good time. Let's make let's make a good time out of this trip, and we'll do everything we can. Each of us. This is Nefesh Habam. Over Berega with the Nefesh Habam, he loses the whole film. Right? And he becomes tremendously emised. Alidei, what he looks at the Dvarim Gashmi in a whole new idea that really everything is from the Eibusha, and really everything is an effect of Elokus. And he doesn't see that by Mahus, but he sees it because he sees Kashmir. And in that guf he now sees the Elokus, even though he doesn't see the Mahus Elokus. Amen. Come to that the film is gone. The film has gone down.
How did that happen? Where did it start from? How did that happen in Nefesh Habam?
Like he said, they did teach him the whole matter with all the mashal and all the we saw before. That you work on the Nefesh Habam.
The Nefesh Elokis.
The Nefesh Elokis works on the Nefesh Habam. So like we saw at the beginning, she starts off with Yesh Mi'ayin and with the Ayin. And those are the things that he can chap. And well, once he's chapped all that, then he begins to see it all in his world. He translates it into his world, and then he sees it. Mamish. Once he sees it, mamish, you can't talk him out of it. So Kunta, he said his film has gone Yeah, it's gone down. And well, once his film has gone down, so then the Neshoma's a balabas. So then the Neshoma, she's able to. Yeah. What's a tzaddik? A tzaddik Neshoma Gavoya. Who's he? He's somebody who took away the whole Indian of the Nefesh Abam. He doesn't have it anymore. And on the contrary, if he does have a Nefesh Abam, that kufa is koching in alakus. Maybe in some ways even more v'dateikus than what the Nefesh Elokis is. All he sees is just Elokis. He sees Muz. Yeah, he doesn't see any Gashmis B'klal. Upon him in Adam Rogil, he's got rid of that film, that mercury at the, over the glass. Now he sees everything, mitzad the Neshoma. The Neshoma's able to see literally through the glass, and she's able to see all the inyonim, and Mamela, her life, and the life of the Adam B'klal become like a mention. Mamish, she and to a certain extent, that's just one step to Leosi. Over the board, over the fence, immediately into Leosi. And then that Riyas Amahusa, the Neshoma is going to link up with the Inaima Agashmim, and it's going to be Mamish Ruhus, Inaima Agashmim. Mamish. Well, we're going to see an amazing Chiddush at the end of the Maimar, a Chiddush Nifla, Shaloi Kamoyo. The Rebbe is going to say that's not the emes of Uftur Leosi. There's an even more profound Indian in Leosi, which the Gabi that Ri is also not the biggest Uftur. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Evamela says the Rebbe, Alafi says, I come to is that if you take away that, then the Neshoma Atzma, she sees everything, but she sees Mamish, the Etzem Mohus of Elokut. The Nefesh Abam only sees the Chushi Distikazachan, and he understands how they are Moshe of Elokut. Over the Neshoma, she's able to see the Etzem Elokus. Yeah, Kamoisha Hu. So Masha Kosov, Ator Horeisa Lo Das. Ki Avai Hu Elokim Mein Oid Mel. So he says, Ator Horeisa Lo Das, Dis Galas HaNeshoma Lamata, Hu Rak Lahareis La'ena Bosa Hagufni, Eich, Shavai Hu Elokim, you came down the Lamata Neshoma. What did you come down for? Ator, meaning the mensch, the Neshoma. Not Atom saying things like we touched. No, Atom, the Neshoma, you came down, Lamata, La Horesa, you came down to show. Yeah, Lodas, right? Even the Nefesh Abami should have a das and a iskashet. Ator, you meant, you have a Neshoma. What did your Neshoma come down? To show. And in Mamela, that's why I used the expression at the beginning. The union of the Neshoma really is like like the famous Moshe, the Chosid, that he lights up the Parnasim in the street. He's a lamplighter. He lights up in Yonim, and he shows the real Metzias, because the things are dark, or sort of patchy, it's dark, and you can't see. But once it's light, you see the Yonim, Kamosha, Amamela touched it, this amazing thing. That's the Indian for an Ato means the Neshoma. You came down to show the Nefesh Abamis at the beginning, first of all, the Chesbainas, that she should get down from the Gufniyas. Then she's able to understand, at least in a real Chushis, in her in Yonim, the Ravaya Hu Elohim. He said, then she comes, Botil Lagami to the Nefesh Elokis, and then the Nefesh Elokis just runs the whole show, Eichehi Ro'at. And then said the Rebbe Hamoyan, the Gezafa, Gam Lo Das, Atoho Reisa Lo Das, Uloshen Shvira, as the well known, Vayedu Bohem Anshe Sukkes, the Pasuk in Wudestot, in Shoivtim, that the Anshe Sukkes, broke them, or had it got annihilated them. Yedu behem anshe sukkah shalidei zeh nasha hashvira yed chumrius hanefesh abamis amela ato horeiso you nefesh elikis, you came down into the world lahorei alidei zeh lodas, you broke and you shattered the whole mirror of the nefesh. The whole mercury, as you might call it, the Nefesh Abami is, the Kasha Etzloi Misamis, Inin Aisavas, Ayesh Miayin, Va'aktus Hashem, Achein Kol Vinyone Elokut, Bechinas Riyah Chushi is, Harium is battle Be'etzema, Husay. He becomes bottle completely, Kamoya Egois, Kashashoiv, Rimak Klipa, Miskala Hapri. Well, if you break the clipper of the egos, then you Emes a Pri. So what you've done by all of that working on the Nefesh Haba Tohoreisa, you've shown the Nefesh Haba that he's now come to use himself in the right way. He uses his Chushim HaGashmin for his Emes Tachlis. Then you break the thing is automatically. What do you get? You get the Pri. What is the Pri? The Pri is the Nefesh Elokis and her inyonim. I'm never the Nefesh Elokis says, oh yes, here I am. We're going into Riyah, Mamish, not just some Riyah Chushis in inyonim, which we can understand. We come to see Riyah Elokus B'Muchish Mamish, and we'll see about that in further episodes. Beis Hashem. However, it's an amazing thing. What is the Pri? Who are Nefesh Elokis? But in the Riyah Zamachush Mami. And therefore he goes on to make the difference. The Nefesh Haba only sees Chushiyas in his inyonim, but he doesn't see Riyah Zamachush in the Elokus. The Nefesh Elokis, that he thought she sees the real McCoy, to use the expression. And then it becomes an amazing Indian. So we see it. If you work on the Nefesh Haba, then your mamish become a Tandarin, Zet Mamish Elokus. And really just one step away from it. And that's what the Rebbe brings in the Biur from the Rebbe Melech Mashiach of that old piece in Lekutei Torah in Parshat Tzav, in the Drushim from Shvi Shal Pesach, where he tells the story about the Arizal on that Shabbos afternoon when he was talking. The person wanted to hear what he was saying, and he says that if I to try and tell you what I was just learning, it would take 60 or 80 years to talk. So the author said, 60, 80 years was it? It was a uniform Riyah Mamish, not a uniform. So the Rebbe came along, the Rebbe said, that's the Riyah, the Neshama prior to the Gura. And the Rizal brought everybody up, and that's our way that everybody can be Zeicher. That's it. But it's not Mamish Riyah, Chushi is in Etzem. That's going to be the Kiddush from Mashiach. Thank you, my